No matter if you're a new white belt or a seasoned black belt, virtually every Jiu Jitsu practitioner is constantly tweaking and developing their game. But the main difference between how a lower belt tweaks their game versus an upper belt is knowing what they should focus on. Today, we're going to be talking about how a lower belt can figure out how to develop their game and what to focus on. As a white belt or a newer blue belt, figuring out where to start when developing your game can be somewhat overwhelming. And it makes sense. You got an instructor at your school who's telling you to focus on the basics. You have dozens of YouTube channels like Jiu Jitsu and Night Jiu Jitsu who put out great content, and you want to listen to them. And then you're scrolling Instagram and there's an infinite amount of weird moves and tricks that look like golden nuggets. And then you have the Jiu Jitsu professionals like Gordon Ryan and the Vertolu brothers, whose games are completely different, yet both are winning at the highest level of competition. So that leads us to ask, who should I follow or listen to, and where do I even start? The quick answer is all of the above, but I know that's not really helpful at all, but I promise this makes more sense as we go through the video. Think of developing your game as a puzzle. Each of those things that I just mentioned is a piece to solving that puzzle. But just as puzzles have border pieces you should find and put together first, and then middle pieces that you should work on after, Jiu Jitsu has border pieces that you should work on first as well. So using that puzzle border piece analogy, the first thing you should do to develop your Jiu Jitsu game is to pick your ideal end game. So in a perfect world, if you could have any style you want, what would it look like? If you don't have an answer to that question, that's where you should start. When you're watching videos on YouTube or watching people at your gym, try to watch with a little more critical of an eye instead of just watching for the sake of it. See whose game you'd love to have. It doesn't have to be one person either, but at this stage, don't make things too complicated. Over time, you can do this process for different parts of your game. For instance, try to emulate Nicky Rod for your guard passing, or Craig Jones for your half guard sweeps, Gordon for your back control, etc. But don't worry about that for now. Just pick one or two at the most until your game starts to develop more. Once you have your ideal game picked out, there's only one caveat you need to think about, and that is, does my body type or athletic ability match this person's? What I mean by this is if you're 300 pounds and not flexible at all, trying to make your game look like the small and freakishly flexible Ben Eddy may not be the most practical. Or on the other side of things, if you're 120 pounds and not super athletic, and you're trying to mimic Nicky Rod's game with his heavy passing and body locks, that might be tough also. Does that mean we have to go back to the drawing board? No, not necessarily, but there are certain physical realities you have to factor in. If you can't even connect your hand to your foot when someone's in your close guard, you're probably going to struggle to play a rubber guard without some serious flexibility training. So once you have an ideal game picked out, my advice would be to find Jiu Jitsu practitioners who not only have that game, but also are somewhat similar to your specific body type. This will help to speed up your progress because you don't have to worry about developing physical traits, you just have to get started. You'll be able to start working on your game right away. Once you have someone picked out you want to mirror your game off of, it's time to reverse engineer it to the start of it. And what I mean by that is, if you want your game to look like Gordon Ryan's, don't start by buying his back control instructional, which is like 10 or 12 hours long, or watch highlights of his heel hook finishes and just try to do that in rolling. You're not even going to get there. Don't worry, you're going to get there soon, but it's not time for that right now. What you're going to want to do is start with the open guard, both top and bottom. From there, we'll figure out sequentially what he does to advance position, get to the back, and ultimately finish the fight. So you're going to be watching Gordon Ryan videos, but specifically watching videos of him either going over open guard or in live competition footage, him doing open guard. And as you're going to watch those, you're going to pay attention to what he's doing, his approach, what is working, what isn't working, and go from there. And again, this is for both top and bottom position. Just as a quick side note, every position we're going to be looking at, we'll be looking at both top and bottom together, because not only do you learn each side, but you also learn the counters and defenses at the exact same time. So this is going to allow us to learn more efficiently since we're learning about the position in a very complete manner from both perspectives. Doing top and bottom together also ensures that you don't neglect one for the other. But yeah, we're going to be watching whoever's videos it is, and this can be an instructional that are free off of YouTube, be competition footage, them flow rolling, pretty much whatever you can find. But the most important thing is to focus on his open guard when watching these. Now here's the other big thing. Don't worry about watching every video. Worry about watching a couple videos of each type. Start with 1 to 2 instructionals from Gordon on passing and also retaining open guard. Then switch to some competition footage and try to spot instances where Gordon tries something that he taught in the instructional. Did he hit it? Did he fail? If it failed, why did it fail? Did he miss a detail in the competition that he highlighted in the instructional? These are the types of questions you want to be asking as you're watching. You're not always going to catch what he's doing, and you may not know what a certain move was or how it failed. But don't let that discourage you. Keep that critical lens on when watching because it is a skill, and once you sharpen it and see things, that means you're actually learning and understanding what's going on. So, if you're understanding it, you're going to know what to do when you're there. Also, when you find these videos, make sure to save them in a playlist or in your notes on your phone so you can reference back to them. Remember, it's better to fully understand a few videos than to try to just watch them all because you're never going to remember anything meaningful from any of them. So as you're starting to strategically watch your film, you also want to be trying what you're doing during live rounds right away. You don't want to get analysis paralysis and use the, oh, I can't try it until I know it all. Just because you conceptually know the move does not mean you can hit it live. So start experimenting with it. You're probably not going to hit it the first few times you try it, but when you start to experience an issue, go back to those same videos and competition footage, try to figure out what you're missing or what you're doing wrong. Now let's say we fast forward a couple days or weeks and you're starting to hit that specific pass. So now you're in half guard and you don't know what to do from there. Well, now go back to finding videos of Gordon passing half guard, study the competition footage, and try it for yourself live. Or if you're seeing there's a position that you keep getting into that's giving you trouble, maybe it's that they keep entering into an X guard whenever you're trying to pass. So you can't even get to half guard because you're leaving yourself open to their X guard. When that happens, just write a note in your phone when you're done the round. Now again, you have your next thing to find videos on, study up, and try it live and see what the fix is. It's pretty much lather, rinse, repeat after that. However, a few things to note once you start to gain some traction when doing this. 1, as much as you started with the end in mind, that was kind of arbitrary and just gave you a framework to guide your training. So with that being said, don't be shy to let your goal be a little more fluid. If your initial goal was back control and you still want that, then don't change a thing. But if during the course something like leg lock starts to really pique your interest, then adjust your end goal but keep the same process. And 2, the big thing is to just not try to tackle too many positions at once. You can probably only handle a couple at a time unless you're really talented, so don't overwhelm yourself. But that's it. Just to go over the main points again, start with the end in mind and pick someone whose style you want to be like and whose body type somewhat matches yours. Then retro-engineer back to the open guard. Then strategically watch some instructionals, competition footage of theirs, and keep that process framework, but let the art part of jiu-jitsu do its thing in guiding you wherever that end goal is or morphs into. I hope you liked the video, and I hope that it helped at least start to develop your jiu-jitsu game as efficiently as possible. Leave any questions or critiques in the comments and throw a like if you found it helpful.